Greetings to all and welcome back to another session of the course titled Academic Speaking and Presentation Skills. Today we are going to cover the topic academic language. What do we understand by academic language and what are the points that we are going to cover in this today's session is the meaning of academic language, what are the different features of academic language, what are the characteristics that builds the academic language. Also, we are going to see the salient features that will differentiate general language from academic language. Also, the building constitute of any language we know is vocabulary. So, we are going to list out different high frequency and low frequency academic vocabulary. And when we have covered so many different points of academic language, it is equally important to learn why are we learning all of it, right? So the importance of using academic language in our everyday life. So let's start with the first question. What do we understand of the term academic language? Is it a different language altogether, like Hindi, Gujarati, Spanish, French? No, it is not, right? It is a language spoken or written during a formal interaction in an institute or an organization, right? Any language that is used for a formal interaction professionally at an organization or an institute level to communicate your ideas is basically the academic language. So it is the simplest sense we can understand that the formal language or the professional language to communicate your ideas. We know in India it is English language that is used as a professional language, right? And also English is the language that is acknowledged globally. It is known as lingua franca, analyzed as a global means of intercommunication, right? So therefore it is important for us to understand that it is not a whole different language, but English used in different variety, especially used inside the institutes or an organization for professional means, would be your academic language. Where is it going to be used, right? We use English. Where are we going to use English? We use English, especially the academic form of English, into report writing. We also use them in presentations. With presentations, we can say that it can be used inside classrooms. It could also be equally parallel to the meetings, right? If someone is working, if not studying, right, it is used inside the meeting rooms while a whole large audience is being addressed. So therefore it can also be for all those aiming to pursue further studies. It will also be used as writing academic reviews, right? It can be used for any kind of a formal submissions, right? Be it oral or written. It can also be used in interviews or business proposals. So how is this different English used? How it makes itself when it is one simple language? How do we bring the difference between the academic language and the general English, right? So for that you need to first understand the basic constituents of it, and to understand the basic constituents you need to know the features. The first feature that we see over here is lexical range. Now lexical range is basically different vocabularies that we use for communicating our ideas, right? So if we are going to use the word stuff, stuff is also English, right? Look at this all stuff that is there. Instead of that, look at all the components that are there of particular whatsoever the reporter, soever it is, right? So therefore in our daily language we can use the word stuff, but when it comes to our professional language or academic language, we need to use the word components. We can either substitute it with different items, we can also substitute it with different materials, right? So simple example, if I would say, making a sentence would be, take your stuff and give me mine, right? Instead of that, if it would be the academic language, how would I say it? Isolate your materials and return my goods, right? So now same stuff is replaced by A, material, B, goods, C, your items, right? And give is again give me, right? It is again associated with a different vocabulary called as return. Now these are the simple terms known by everyone, but how do we make use of them matters. Another real good example would be really big, right? This is really big project. Instead of that, this project has huge potential, right? It's humongous. It is substantial for bringing financial abundance. So there are various other ways that we could use the words, right? Instead of saying really big, it can be used in our daily interactions. It can be used even with the colleagues when it is an informal interaction or you are having a simple conversation. But in a meeting, in a presentation and various other ends, there has to be a use of academic register, academic lexical range and academic way of presenting, right? So therefore we need to know that the first component is lexical range. Second is grammar. Now grammar plays a very important role. How it can completely shift the focus. If we just take one simple example of, active and passive voice. So the sentence over here is I have not done the work, right? Instead of that, when we speak I have not done the work, the focus is on I. It is me who is not doing anything, right? But when we use the same thing, the work has not been done due to minor details that requires my attention. Now you are saying the work is not done. You have not done it? No, you are already doing it. You are paying attention to the minor details and therefore you require an extension of time or whatsoever it is. So therefore there is a difference of way of saying things. And therefore with grammar, syntax plays equally important role, right? What do we understand by syntax? Syntax is basically the arrangement of words and its formation, right? So therefore how do we formulate a whole sentence? How do we use grammar? How do we use different vocabularies? We all have the building structure now. With all these three, the last remains is academic register. Register is basically the tonality of how we speak, right? If it is a formal environment, we cannot, use all caps. It's equivalent to shouting at somebody if it is an academic or if it is a professional environment that we are using. So there are various other tonalities that we will have to be careful with. Sarcasm can be used in our day-to-day life. It could bring amusing things, but when it goes to academic again, right, in a presentation, we have to limit our humor to a particular extent. So be very formal in the tone of whatever we are saying. So then the features explain the same thing, right? Academic language operates through use of specialized vocabulary as well as distinct grammar, syntactic structures in both, either it is spoken or written form. Using academic language involves identifying reference, vocabs and grammar between the concepts that are there and creating a cohesion. Cohesion is making complete sense, right? One after the other, when you read the things or when you say the things, it should make a complete sense. And therefore, whenever the information is being communicated. So these are the features of academic language. Let's now move to another title called Characteristics of Academic Language. What are the characteristics? As said, it requires academic registers. It is equally here written that it has to have a formal tone. It is compulsory, it is mandatory to have the formal tone while we are communicating within an organization at a professional level or an institute. We are reporting something, right? There cannot be any mischiefs or any sarcasm or any hilarious tone that can be used over here. So it is not fiction, right? It is something that you are going to report it, right? So therefore it has to be very formal, and that is the major key that will differentiate it from everyday language. Another important point, right, over here it says that academic language, the primary function of academic language is to elucidate and scrutinize knowledge derived from theoretical framework. So whatever you have understood out of the books, out of the theories, right, everything, every experience that you might have had, you have learned something, right, and that knowledge you are going to scrutinize, that knowledge you are going to use, and you are going to articulate it in your own way, right, in a simpler manner and in an discipline specific manner. So therefore it is important for you to know this particular knowledge, have a complete understanding of it, and then try to explain it in the best way possible, and that will give you the researcher's outcome, and that will convince whoever is the listener or the reader, right? Last point is that academic language is justifiable and reasonable. Now, as I said, right, the work has not been done. It could be simple, but it is not justified. Why the work has not been done? I could have simply ended the sentence that I have not done the work, I need extra time. And instead of that, the work has not been done, I need the additional time. But over here, I have said that in the example earlier, right, I have said that it requires additional time for looking the minor details. Now, this is why academic language is important. You need to know that nothing can be spoken or written in air. It has to have proofs. It has to have justified reasons, right? So therefore, any academic language that we use, you need to understand that it has to be justifiable. It has to be reasonable enough that it makes complete sense, right? Now, next we have the difference between academic language and social language. What should we do so that this English language is different, used when we socially communicate to somebody, and the person is known that this is a professional communication that is being made. Of course, yes, the drafts of reports and everything are meant to be professional, but however, right, any submissions that you do is meant to be professional, but however, the language itself has to isolate. So you cannot use personal pronouns, right, I, me, we. It has to have a kind of subjectivity, right, to the work, to the task or whatever is being undertaken. So therefore, the very first difference over here is use of colloquial terminology, and at the other end we use advanced vocabularies, right? So think about it. Instead of think about it, we would rather say consider, contemplate, comprehend, right? These are called as colloquial terminology versus advanced vocabulary, right? We have already gone through the lexical range that one requires to have the academic language, right? So that is mentioned over here at the first point. The second one, we say that it uses abbreviations and contractions, right? When it is social language, it will use abbreviations such as what, right? Such as ROFL, rolling on the floor and laughing, right? That is called as abbreviation, right? You are using the capital of each word and you have abbreviated it. To be honest would be TBH, that is the abbreviation. Now when we are writing down, chatting on WhatsApp or whatsoever, right, it is okay to use these abbreviations, right? You're just saving up the time, but at the same point of time, it can never be used in academic language. Another thing is the contractions. The word contractions means combining two different words to make it shorter. So I want to do this, instead of that, I want to do this, right? I want to go to the mountains and climb whatsoever. So therefore, I wanna, let me, right? Give me. So let me will become let me. Give me will become gimme. These are the contractions. So these are the examples. You can use them in social language, absolutely fine. But at the same point of time, you need to be very careful that these are not used in academic form. Grammar and syntax, of course, as we have seen, those are the constituent features of academic language, right? Matters. There has to be grammar, definitely, but it doesn't matter if you make small little mistakes here and there in social language. But when it comes to academic language, you have to be very specific. Use of passive voice, use of subordinate clause, right? Conveying things with precision. It has to be to the point. and bringing out the nuanced meaning. So whatever is to be delivered, not what you think, right? So therefore there has to be difference between the two. And the difference that we'll find in, conversational tones, often we use idioms and phrases over here, right? Such as birds in the same flock fly together. But that can you use in objective tone? No. If I want to say same thing, right? Idioms and phrases, what does it mean? Birds in the same flock fly together. All those who have a similar kind of a company will do similar kind of an action, right? I want to objectively mention it under academic language. I would rather say those assigned the responsibility to do work will be equally responsible for whatever is the outcome. Now it is, authoritative tone. So you must know, right, which words to use, have to use, which idioms and phrases to use, and have over here it will change into a complete different clause altogether. So that is the difference between academic and social language. Now it is the time to analyze academic vocabulary. What you can see is use of SL. SL is social language, right? And RV is regular vocabulary. So when we say that usage of SL and usage of RV is, marked lower into the table chart, we can say that these is basically the environment of an organization or a professional institute where use of social language is lower and use of regular vocabulary is lower, use of academic language is higher, and use of what is the highest used over here is HVAF, that is high frequency academic vocabulary. Do not worry, we'll see it in the next slides to come. What does it mean, right? But this is the table chart where we see that if any organization that we are going to work with, especially if it is an MNC, right, multinational ones, which has global alliances, you will have to be very careful. One needs to be very careful of how to use what vocabulary to use. If we are talking about academic language, the key substitution over here would be, key element over here would be vocabulary, right? And vocabulary is utilized across all professional, especially academic disciplines, to instruct on subject specific content. Example over here that is used as a compound table differs from a periodic table of element. Definitely, right? When somebody who is not a discipline specific person would not know what is compound table, right? What is periodic table? So might use it interchangeably, right? Might use it interchangeably. So therefore you need to know content, words specific related to a discipline, and that's how it becomes what it is: high frequency words versus low frequency words. Now word frequency effects refers to an individual's ability to use, understand and respond to a word quickly with ease, right? Whenever you speak, whenever you explain, whenever you write, whenever you are reading, there are certain words that will click to your mind immediately, right? And those are, as soon as it quickly, brings understanding, it quickly enhances the meaning. Those are the words that we can identify as, it marks a particular frequency, right? So therefore, it is used to trace the pace of an individual, right? What is the pace of an individual who is speaking this academic language? What is the proficiency of an individual? How fluent an individual is? And whether the person is accurate or not while using the language. So whenever we are using academic language, there is going to be a certain group of people who would, click frequently with low words or vocabularies, and there will be one who would understand even the discipline specific words, so least used words, right? So therefore, frequency of words, what does high frequency of words means and what does the low frequency of words means, right? High frequency of words are the words that are used the highest amount while speaking or writing, whereas low frequency words are the words which are not used frequently, which are basically used less as compared to the words that are used more frequently, right? So therefore it requires more concentration, it requires receivers concentration to pay attention to the words, decode it, and then understand. So therefore there are linguistics who works on this, right? They have analyzed that while we are speaking, while we are writing, in this usage of academic language, which are the words that are most used. And to your astonishment, you will be shocked when Fry, the linguistics, identified the first 100 list in 1980s of the words that are mostly used, right, which are having high frequency of its usage, are very simple: the, and, to, said, in, he, I, of, it. Now these are all the combinations, right? Was is a verb, right? You is a pronoun, right? She is again a pronoun, is a verb, right? For. So then there are even at, it's a position. So all of these words which are most commonly used, that brings meaning to the whole sentence, because you may use the words in isolation, that has complete sense itself, right? Water, we know what water is. Water has meaning in itself. But in, does it has any meaning in itself? No, right? But yet it is highly used words, because these are the words that will bring importance to the complete sentence. So therefore the high frequency words should be used at the maximum while we are using academic language, because it will enhance what you are trying to say. Therefore, high frequency academic vocabulary are the words that appear most commonly in English language, as opposed to the sight words. Adults, again, important point to be noted, that whenever we are talking about adults, individuals, they use the base of 30,000 to 60,000 high frequency words in their repertoire. So they have the base. These are the frequency of the words that is highest, only because all of the adults that are there around, right, across, who is using this academic language, their basic repertoire, their base would be 30,000 to 60,000, and therefore they are repeated again and again, right, at multiple times. And interestingly, high frequency words, though commonly used, are different, right, difficult to learn. They are why difficult to learn? Because they are very irregular in their phonetic patterns as well. The, whether do we have to pronounce it as the, or whether we have to pronounce it as the, right, that is the phonetic pattern. It also, when put in isolation, they lack concrete meaning, and it does not have the abstract nature. So you need to understand that vocabulary, when we speak about, right, high frequency vocabulary, they come from the four basic things: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And these vocabularies can be differentiated between, there are meaningful vocabularies, words that will have complete meaning in themselves, right? There would be expressive vocabularies. Out of this 30,000 to 60,000 words that we are speaking, there would be expressive words. So while you are trying to express your ideas, your opinions, you would use these words specifically, right? And then when it is about written, right, about a specific discipline, there would be literate vocabulary known to a specific audience, right, or researchers, a group of people who are participating in that particular discourse. And then we have receptive vocabulary, right, one where we pick up new words every day, right? So these are the few qualities of high frequency vocabulary, and these are the distinguished types of how this frequency vocabularies can be identified. Why it is important to learn this academic language and vocabulary? Apart from excelling in reading and writing and performing academically, right, one needs to perform well in their exams, and that is going to benefit forever. But however, apart from all of that, academic language makes an individual capable of something. So what is an individual being capable of? The individual will be able to articulate oneself with precision and clarity, right? You will speak with complete clarity, with proficiency, with accuracy, and to the point whenever and whatever is required to be explained. So that is the ability to articulate, the ability to express, right? One needs to again understand that while if one person learns the academic language, the person will be able to excel in effective communication, right? Again, it's not just effective, you will not only achieve the desired goals, but you will be able to, because you have achieved all of it, you will be able to perform well, aiding to achieve your desired goals, aligning it with your desired goals, right? And what is an individual's desired goal? It is to achieve success, it is to achieve professional different heights, right? And if one has a command of it, then it is always given a preference. So therefore, bringing out simple summary of the whole thing, you need to understand what are the points that we have learned today, right? When we speak of academic language, it is important for you to understand that there are high frequency vocabularies that are used. There are again distinct grammar and syntactic structures that we need to follow and communicate even the complex of ideas in a clear sense. So therefore, it is important for us to understand academic language and make its use wherever required or necessary, right? It is also necessary to learn high frequency vocabulary as well as state the low frequency vocabulary to gain command over the academic lexical range. We know that academic language cannot be possible to have a command until and unless you learn the lexical range of it. So therefore, both high frequency vocabularies as well as low frequency vocabularies, which are less used and highest used words, you must be aware of those and you must utilize them now and again. You must use them interchangeably, and at the end we must know that by learning any academic language, an individual can accomplish not only in gaining academic register but also enhance personal and professional growth. So this is today's session, and hopefully you will go back to the details, learn, know the importance, and try put this into practice, right? Because no language can be learned. First, if we fear something, we'll never be able to command over it. So we do not have to fear that this academic language is completely different to the other, but we will have to try to put this English, use this English into different varieties, right? And one of them would be the professional way, learning, trying to implement this academic language, the knowledge of academic language into our day-to-day practical life. Thank you so much for paying attention throughout, and hoping to see you in the next session. Thank you.